my personal experience with lupus has been a long and painful journey. So it didn't start out as lupus. It started out as antiphospholipid syndrome when I was 14, where I had a mini stroke. So half of my body was numb. From there, I had a deep vein thrombosis and pulmonary embolism, which is the blood clot in your lung. And I nearly died at 17 from this. So after this, for 3 years, my diagnosis for lupus was always borderline, so I never had it. And then one day my doctor said that my antiphospholipid syndrome had mutated into lupus at 20. And then the first signs I was having lupus was that my red blood cells were breaking up. So my blood count dropped to half of a normal person's, and I needed blood transfusion. After that, so for me, my lupus is a bit strange in the sense that it migrates around the body. So it doesn't just, a flare up or a symptom doesn't just stay to one part of the body where it happens for most people. So mine moved after that to the brain, where I had microhemorrhages. So it did affect my thinking. Then after that, it moved. I had a mitral valve prolapse where I had a heart surgery done at Cleveland Clinic in the US. And I was also diagnosed with Sjogren's syndrome. So I'd like to say, for a personal experience with lupus, you tend to notice that a lot of patients don't just have lupus alone as a diagnosis, but they have many autoimmune disorders linked to it as well. So it's rare actually just to have lupus alone. Yeah, and then now, so now the lupus, I'm not sure where it is, but it might be in the nervous system and the brain. So for this particular kind of lupus is diagnosed through a method of exclusion. So there's no test for even knowing what kind of, where it's in your body. And I've also have epilepsy attacks where the doctors say that it's not linked to the lupus, but I think it is, because lupus in the brain can cause epileptic attacks as well. As for treatments throughout the lupus, I've tried every single drug available out there, immunosuppressants and everything. None of them have worked for me so far. Only steroids, which is not a good thing because I've developed osteoporosis from it. And but it's the only thing that works, so at least there's something. And the problem with steroids is when I get a flare-up, it's the only thing that controls the flare. So even if I take the strongest painkiller I have, it doesn't do anything for the pain, only the steroids. And taking a huge amount of steroids really messes with your mind more than anything else. So it helps you physically, but your mind, it's just messed up. Like, I mean, I had a friend that was admitted to the psychiatric ward. Thankfully, I wasn't, but I would say that the medicines are as bad as the disease themselves. So it's kind of like choosing between two evils, and which pain you'd like to, which is the lesser of the two pains you'd like to endure. I've tried rituximab, which back then, I think it was almost 10 years ago, it was a new drug here. So I was only the 7th patient in the hospital to try it. And apparently it worked. It works for a lot of patients and had less side effects. But for me, it didn't work. And I had an anaphylaxis reaction to it after a second try. So this medicine was quite expensive. It was, like I said, $10,000 Singapore dollars. So that's about 7,000 USD. And with no insurance or government aid due to because it's a rare drug and it's kind of off-label for using for lupus. It's more for leukemia. So yeah, so that was, I had an allergic reaction and they had to throw basically $10,000 away because it's not something you can reuse for someone else as well. So how lupus affects me at the present moment, I need a lot of support from my family and my partner, which I'm very grateful for. I've learned that it's okay to accept help. Chronic illness people definitely are going to need more help for the rest of their lives, and the sooner you accept that, the better. No matter how strong or how proud or independent you are, it's not enough it's not enough when you're in deep pain, basically. So right now I'm trying to look for work again. So many patients are unemployed, and many companies don't understand that either. So I've kind of been discriminated at work as well, such as they've excluded me from company events because they say stuff like, we're not sure if you can manage it with your health, so they exclude me from events. So it is discrimination, I would say, and people think it's okay because there's not enough awareness, I think, on it. And I guess in Singapore society, I'm not sure in the US or Europe, they might have better healthcare laws in the workplace, but here, yeah, I think I would definitely have to tell my employer I have this illness, and I will need a lot of time off for medical appointments. So at one period of time, I worked on a contract basis. So I was going for medical appointments, and I see up to 10 different doctors a month. And one appointment can last from anywhere from 2 hours to 6 hours. So that's time off work that I have to put back. So I either go to the hospital, then to work, or I go in the middle of the day, and then I stay back in the office after work to catch up. And this actually, ironically, you're actually pushing yourself harder than a normal person, and which is not good for anyone's health. And ironically, it causes flares. So at that point of time, I was in so much pain where I had to actually calculate my toilet breaks just to save my knees some pain. And I had to take a cab to work, to and fro every day, which wasn't cheap, but at least I was still earning some money. So yeah, and nobody really knows that I was in pain either. So I think that's the sad part about it. I think I'd hear like colleagues complaining about having to walk up the stairs or something, and I'm just envious they can even walk, you know. So yeah, I think work is a huge issue for people with chronic illness, and even trying to find freelance, which is what I've been doing, which I'm grateful for because I do enjoy freelancing. I do web development. Even so, it's stressful as well. So it's really hard to find a balance. And for people that have no support, I think that can be extremely hard. And I'm grateful. Yeah.